went through the topics and kind of went nuts and spewed out a bunch of stuff that coincidentally ended up being on the test. Does that seem like a good use of time?
Yeah.
What the hell then?
You go slow.
What's that? Go slow. So, history and gateways. In cannabis history, there's at least one name going all the way back to ancient times, and that's Mahwang. It's not Mahwang, it's actually Shenang. I almost said, but you're welcome to Mahwang, but then... Other big names and dates. Okay, so beside that 2737 BC, which I don't fucking believe anyway, but 2800 BC I'll certainly take. Right. Hemp, even older than that, if you had to guess at gunpoint, 8000 BC. I'm not even sure, like, I have friends who don't even think the world was here in 8000 BC, right? So we got to take that with a grain of salt. Right. But we find those pieces of ceramic that are decorated with hemp stuff. That's pretty compelling. Other dudes?
Anslinger.
Real loud? Anslinger. Was head of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics. Maximilian. O'Shaughnessy, right? British guy, went down to India in the 1850s, did all this work with animals, giving cannabis to dogs and stuff. And what does he find out? It has medicinal uses, rheumatism and arthritis. Who first told us that? Shenang. O'Shaughnessy. Right? There's a cute cannabis newspaper out on the West Coast called O'Shaughnessy's. But it supports medical use. All those French guys hanging out. Balzac. The Hashish Club. Right. Clubs de Hashishins. Hashish Club. Right. Everybody was there, only observed, but Baudelaire, Gautier, Balzac, Alexander Dumas, okay, all those dudes. Did they smoke pot? No. They ate hash candies, waited around a long time. Okay. And there was a guy who gave them all their hash, a physician who actually wrote a book about it all. The Island of Dr. Moreau. All right. Well, this was the Hashish Club of Dr. Moreau. And instead of people turning into animals, they just got switching past that, 1700s. Cannabis tinctures are in the pharmacopoeia here in the US and in Europe. Whole lot of industrial hemp at the time. Ben Franklin's writing to the king saying, dude, we just don't have enough, sorry. And by the way, we're making more money on tobacco, so grow your own hemp. Turn 1850s. Okay, cotton gets bigger. We see less cannabis in part in medicine because it was not reliable in its strength. Okay. 1900s, by 1917, suddenly these crazy Mexicans start coming up looking for work. Okay. And what happens in Laredo, Texas? Okay. First city ordinance against marijuana. I mean Mexicans, right? 1917. Right? What did Woody Harrelson say? It wasn't such a great way to control marijuana, but it was a great way to control Mexicans. Individual areas start adopting laws. Anslinger starts trying to get the Federal Bureau of Narcotics on this. About what time? About when?
1937.
1937 is the Marijuana Tax Act. All right. What had happened just a few years before? Alcohol prohibition is lifted. All of Anslinger's cronies are out of work unless they can find a new evil something. And those crazy Mexicans lend themselves to that.
Is there a reason, like, he hated drugs so much? Like, is there, like, a backstory? Is he just, like, oh, man, I just hate drugs.
Anslinger himself? So, I mean, he actually, I mean, as much as the cannabis reform movement makes fun of him all the time, he did some great work against organized crime. Right? But he was quite the alcohol prohibitionist, too. I mean, I think he was down on anybody altering states of consciousness more generally. Larry Ratzo Sloman did an interview with somebody who at least had known him before he died and suggested that he really believed this. In the beginning, some of his work was not all that anti-cannabis, but he didn't understand its wicked impact. Also, when you look at the arguments, though, there's obvious xenophobia. There's obvious masked racism, right? He's got quotes like, marijuana makes black folks think they're as good as white men. Oh, really? Thanks, Harry. They're not aspiring to much, are they? And it gives Mexicans superhuman strength. Any Mexicans in the house? And at USC, I had tons and tons of Mexicans. And they said, yeah, it gives me superhuman strength, so watch out. So yeah, when you look at that, it's kind of a mess. But then when you think about what we do with opium and the Chinese, kind of the same deal. So give you a feel for history. Marijuana Tax Act.
37.
All right. Yes. Shenang.
2737.
Got the big picture. Gateway. Take-home message on the gateway. Okay, just because something comes first doesn't mean it's a cause. A subset of folks who do all kinds of crazy things. Don't wear their seatbelts, stand in long lines to be in the front car of the roller coaster, forget their condoms, start on pot and move to hard drugs. Okay. But huge, huge samples of folks in treatment for hard drug problems tried hard drugs before they tried pot, okay, including a reference that you can all remember. The author's name was Blaze. That's right again. Yeah. So evidence for gateway theory actually suggests that there's an underlying personality disposition, a sort of sensation-seeking trait that accounts for the use of a whole lot of hard drugs. Meanwhile, literally, over 100 million Americans have now tried marijuana. We have about 7 million heroin addicts. So, where's that gateway? Can we get animals to self-administer hard drugs after pot? Yeah, but we have to do like really disgusting, nasty things to them. Right? Most rodents don't like pot, so it's hard with them. With the squirrel monkeys, you have to like literally tie them down and have nothing else to do but hit a bar to get coke after they've hit a bar to get THC. Right? It's really rough. So gateway. Now, is there a gateway effect in other ways? Well, if I start doing drugs, I start hanging out with people who do drugs, I get involved in the underground, okay, I'm more likely to drop out of school. Right? And in high school, that's a big issue. Right? But is it the drugs that are causing this?
No.
All right. And adults love this, because if my kid fucks up, it's because your kid is evil. I got somebody else to blame besides myself. It's not my shitty parenting. It's that your child is the devil child. Cannabis and cognition. Okay. During intoxication, people are stupid. Okay. Impaired short-term memory. Complex reaction time impaired. Simple reaction time probably not. Right. But a bunch of things are not affected at all. Long-term memory. Stuff you've already encoded is still accessible. Do we see change in evoked potentials? Yes, but only on very complicated tasks. Other brainwave changes, again, only things that are indicative of mood. So not a big deal. Subjective effects. Marijuana makes you really anxious. You tend to not be hungry. Don't seem to enjoy yourself much. Okay. And there's a subset of folks who that's their reaction, right? And what a surprise, they don't use marijuana too many times. Meanwhile, there's this whole other set of folks who claim to be relaxed and mellow, who assume that sexual experiences are going to be enhanced, who feel like music sounds nicer, that their sense of touch is more sensitive, that food is completely delightful. Wow, what a surprise. These folks tend to use cannabis a little more. Any other subjective effects? Well, there's one related to time. See if you can remember. It's hard if you're high right now. You're not going to code any of this, are you? Cannabis and health. Okay. What were the things you were taught in 7th grade?
You smoke pot, you'll die.
Smoke pot, you'll die. Okay. Maximilian.
Make you infertile.
Make you infertile. Any other ones? All right. If you smoke pot, you'll die. All right. And in fact, this was the big. Okay. More people died drowning than from pot last year. More people died from aspirin overdose. More people died in fires. Right?
Stop smoking pot?
But the clincher was I used to be able to say no one has ever died from smoking marijuana. Right? But we just had the first, perhaps, tachycardia caused heart rate. See, as the population is getting older, though, this is going to get more and more complicated. Right? Some dude got high, his heart went faster like it always does. Right? And he had a heart attack. Now, was it the pot? Bottom line is, when you get older, you got to watch the stimulants. Good thing I'm so young. Infertility, right? You're going to have no kids or one kid with an eye right in the middle of his forehead. Okay? And they're going to call him Cyclops at school. It's going to be hard. Okay, in fact, what do we see? 8 days of smoking, 8 joints a day. Nahas's data suggests decreases in sperm count, but not down into the infertile range. For women, with apes, like female apes, if you give them just enormous, huge doses of THC, you can mess up the menstrual cycle. All right? When you go to fertility clinics with real human women, the women who smoke pot seem to get pregnant at the same rates as folks who don't, but they also have more sex. Coincidence? Who knows? Other health effects? The dreaded respiratory irritation. Okay. Does smoking literally anything irritate the lungs? Yes. The lungs evolved for the inhalation of nice clean air. If you find any, enjoy. It's free. Right? But what we were told was, it's going to give you lung cancer. Or as my 8th grade teacher said, your lungs will decay. Which I'm not exactly sure what that's supposed to mean. Like they're in formaldehyde, they're going to rot. Right? But what do we find? Longitudinal data from UCLA, Tashkin's data suggests that over decades, no, we're not getting the lung cancer. And the respiratory irritation is very real, but what can you do instead of smoking?
Smoke cleanly.
Smoke cleanly? Okay, the vaporizer. All right, did I show you guys the picture and all that? I just gave a talk in front of the vice provost for pencil sharpening about that. Everybody was all interested in the vaporizer. It was very cute. So, respiratory effects are probably easy to sidestep, but definitely there with the smoking. All right. God forbid there's also oral ingestion. And what's the most common medium for that? Brownies. Okay, why? I don't know. I just found a study, it was like, you know, you get to the method section, they're like, and the brownie mix was stirred 50 times with the wooden spoon.
Does the wood make a difference?
I was thinking we need to gather those data. Coincidentally, there were 5 authors and 5 participants. Interesting study. Okay, nevertheless, what do we find? Oral administration definitely increases subjective change, probably because of 11-hydroxy-GH. Okay. First of all, when you're smoking cannabis, you lose about half of it to side-stream smoke. When you're eating cannabis, it's all going right down. Okay. The metabolism, that creation of that 11-hydroxy-GHC in the liver, all that crosses the blood-brain barrier faster. You guys already know this? Want me to just hang out and answer questions for folks, or keep doing the review? What do you want?
What's time is it?
What time is it? It's 2:04. It's fucking beautiful out. I know it is. I'm so grateful for being here. I'll do more if you want. Yeah. Do it up? All right. So other than respiratory effects, all right. All the cancers we're not seeing. There's occasional head and neck cancer stuff, but it's probably from smoke. So if you vaporize, that's okay. Any other health effects? What else were you told? It'll mess with your brain. All right. In those above potential data, we are seeing interesting things. Okay. The way long-term users process information is not the same as the way folks who've never touched it is. And if you start heavy use early in life, we see deviant proportions of white and gray matter. Okay, that's happened at least once in one study. It isn't replicating. We still don't know. What's that?
Significant.
Yeah, so the ratio of white to gray is off. Other health effects, something bad might happen. Weight gain. They slowed metabolism, Fulton's data, where they stay in the lab for a whole week and smoke pot every day. They consume more calories, and their metabolism seems to be slower. They gain more. So yeah, the cannabis weight loss plan is not, unless the doses are really, really high. Medical cannabis. Okay. You know, a bunch of disorders where, look, it's just no good. Right? And I have that list, but things like Huntington's. Right? What a surprise, it's not the antibacterial. Right? You got a sore throat, smoking pot is not the cure. Okay. What do we see? Okay. Age-related wasting, okay. Improvements of appetite. Okay, but it can't be your lone treatment. If you can get a steroid, obviously that's going to help. Cancer-related chemotherapy, nausea. Okay. The nausea and vomiting effects are instantaneous, or within 15 seconds, which is a big advantage over pills. I just got a call on the radio about menopause. Okay, so maybe it decreases hot flashes. So I'm going to gather some data. I thought that was interesting. As the population's aging, that would be all. Pain. Okay. Little dab will do you. It's that Goldilocks. You got to have the right dosage, right? But we're seeing tension headache, certainly cluster headache stuff, which we also saw for mushrooms, right? And a bunch of migraine data. But pain in the lab, we have compelling data now. Donald Abrams at UCSF has all these crazy things where they put hot pepper sauce on your skin, and do all kinds of crazy things like that. Definitely see improvement, right? And the advantage is, you don't have to take as many opiates, you're less likely to develop tolerance to the opiates, and away it goes. Social problems. Really, this is driving, teen use, that kind of stuff. What's the story with driving?
Don't drink and smoke and drive.
Okay, definitely don't drink and drive, and certainly don't drink and smoke and drive. Right? Roby's data suggest there aren't a lot of serious impairments with cannabis alone. But what do folks do? They compensate. They increase the distance between their car and the car in front of them. They increase their stopping distance. Okay? They're much less likely to try to pass other cars. They're much less likely to speed. So don't drive high. Drive as if you were high. Do those exact same things. Same diagnostic criteria we did with the alcohol stuff. Is there tolerance for cannabis? It's hard to tell. If we got THC in pills in the lab, we definitely see it. Who gets the same pot over and over again and smokes it the same amount, the exact same way, time after time, and then notices they're not quite as high? Ugh, it's a little harder. Right? But we definitely see tolerance of THC. Is there cannabis withdrawal? Boy, that Missouri growing up really comes out in that word. Withdrawal. How do you guys say withdrawal?
Withdrawal.
I say withdrawal, I guess. So there is a cannabis withdrawal scale. Budney developed it. The items are loss of appetite, which I'm just like, dude, really? Cannabis craving, irritability, right, and disturbed sleep. Right? You do get a lot of REM rebound. Sleep is definitely, if you know, doing the tincture every night to fall asleep, there is some REM suppression. When you lay off, all those dreams come back all at once. Right? Suddenly you're playing the drums in India on an airplane, flying around, really proud of yourself that you're not smoking opium. Had that dream recently myself. Just shit comes back. So yeah, there is a withdrawal. It's not like heroin withdrawal. Okay? Nobody goes into cannabis withdrawal and like is throwing up and their muscles are twitching and stuff like that. It's just not the same. Okay? The abuse diagnoses are the same as they were for alcohol as well. Right? If you drive intoxicated, yes, that counts. Right? Operating heavy machinery while you're stoned, yes. Right? Trying to work the grill, ending up in the emergency room because you're chopping onions high, right? All that. Enjoy the prohibition, the stuff we did today. Right? Teen use does not seem to vary with legislation. Other stuff I can clear up, things I can explain. All right, I'm happy to sign books. I'll do it at the exam too. It's been a great time. Thanks for being here.